shoplifting, ShopKo provides its loss prevention, or LP team members with training in the monitoring of external theft. This training will demonstrate the 3 phases of an apprehension: observation, detention, and investigation. This video will show you critical elements in observing suspected shoplifters, when and how to make a ShopKo detention, and most importantly, how to document the case and show intent on the part of the shoplifter. Failure to follow procedures can expose ShopKo to areas of legal liability. Errors in judgment can result in putting ShopKo at risk from both a legal and customer service standpoint. As a result, we must follow all policies and procedures to avoid errors. Now, let's take a look at a typical detention from beginning to end and see how the process works. Due to size and sometimes expensive price, jewelry and accessories are among our most often stolen items. Here, our subject begins looking at a selection of watches. Notice that she removes the watch from its box, closes the box, and places it behind the others. This is evidence of intent and will need to be documented later in the written report. She then palms or attempts to hide the item in her hand before leaving the department. Often, shoplifters will leave the department where the merchandise was selected and go to another area of the store. Always remember that until items are concealed, the person is still a customer. As our subject walks towards an adjacent department of the store, she still has the item palmed in her hand. She then begins to look around before concealing the item in her pocket. This is also evidence of intent. Intent. Retail theft is a specific intent crime. It cannot be presumed, but must be proved like any other element of the crime. It must be shown that the customer intended to permanently deprive the store or merchant of the property or purchase price of the property. Both removing the item from the packaging, hiding the empty box, and looking around prior to concealing the item are evidence of intent and need to be documented. Our subject then proceeds to another area of the store. If you lose sight of the customer, exercise caution, as he or she may change their mind and discard the concealed item. At this time, she removes a pair of shorts from the hanger. This is also evidence of intent. Notice again, she looks around, rolls up the merchandise, and then conceals it inside of her purse. Many shoplifters will justify their presence in the store by purchasing a small, inexpensive item prior to leaving. As the customer is making the purchase, she will make no effort to pay for the concealed items. This is also evidence of intent and needs to be documented in your report. You must remember to maintain observations at all times to avoid any liability in the event that the subject discards the merchandise prior to exiting. The subject has now completed the purchase, but failed to pay for the concealed merchandise. You are now ready to make the detention based on probable cause that the subject is in possession of unpaid-for items. When making the detention, you should attempt to detain the person after she passes through the first set of exit doors. Always have a witness. ShopKo procedure requires that the LP team member or the witness be the same gender as the person being detained. When making the detention, you should stop in front of the subject, approximately 1 arm length away. Do not touch the subject. Identify yourself as store security, show your identification card, and ask the subject to return to the store with you to discuss unpaid-for merchandise. You should maintain a polite, yet confident tone and demeanor. When returning to the office, the witness should lead the subject back inside the store, and the LP team member should follow behind the subject. When returning to the office, be sure the subject's hands are not in her pockets with the intent to discard evidence, present a weapon, or to flee. Once you have returned to the office with the witness and the subject, you are ready to begin the investigation phase of the detention. Once in the office, advise the person of the reason for the detention and ask that she place any unpaid-for items on the desk. Listen to any explanation that the person offers. Should the person claim prior ownership of the items, you will need to investigate the person's claims. Remember, you should never search an individual or the personal belongings of an individual. but you may ask if she has any additional merchandise. You then request ID from the person and verify that the information on the ID is accurate. If the subject is a minor, it is your responsibility to contact her parents. It is Shopko's policy to prosecute shoplifters when all elements of theft are present. When all elements have been met, you should contact the police department and begin writing your report. If requested, you must allow the person who has been detained to use the telephone. If you make a detention and believe the person should not be prosecuted, your supervisor should be consulted prior to releasing the person. In certain areas, photographs of merchandise can be used as evidence. If this is the case, you need to be certain that an evidence ID sheet is used and that you obtain good quality photographs. Your supervisor will inform you of procedures for handling physical evidence and photographs in your area. You may not take pictures of the shoplifter unless a picture is requested by the police department. You need to give the shoplifter a copy of the Retail Theft Civil Liability Notice and explain the program to the shoplifter or parents when a minor is detained. Information about this program is located in the Loss Prevention Reference Manual. It is critical to document the information and events pertaining to the detention using the online detention report. Your supervisor will provide you with additional training in this area, or you can refer to your store's LP reference manual. From time to time, a subject may refuse to return to the office with you. If this happens, be sure to keep tempers down. Politely and firmly repeat your request that he or she accompany you back to the store. Contact the police. Get additional help with a red service page. Minimize the incident to defuse the situation. Do not physically or verbally provoke the person. Discuss the items taken. If the subject runs or fights, do not continue the detention if there is a risk of injury to anyone involved. If the subject presents a weapon or threatens use of a weapon, immediately terminate the detention and make sure all witnesses are safe. Obtain information such as physical descriptions, vehicle descriptions, license plate numbers, direction of travel, and immediately notify the police. When in the office, if the subject refuses to cooperate, do not shout or argue. Do not touch or search the customer. Notify the police and begin writing your report. Remember, the person is allowed to leave when they want. If a weapon is spotted on the subject, immediately terminate the detention and dismiss him or her. From time to time, we detain customers only to realize that the person is not in possession of unpaid-for merchandise. This is called a customer contact. Should this occur, explain the reason for the detention, apologize, and allow the customer to leave. If the customer is a minor, you must contact a parent or guardian and advise him or her of the incident and explain the situation. Notify your store manager and field supervisor of the incident. Following the incident, complete the online customer contact report. The following section will be used to present some of the methods that shoplifters often use when attempting to take merchandise from our store. It shows you some of the behavioral clues to look for when monitoring the sales floor. The first technique to watch for involves a subject switching price tags from one item to another in order to pay less than the actual price. This is particularly true with clearance tags. If you notice someone removing price tags of any sort, keep an eye on her. Customers may conceal merchandise under clothing items and then take it into the fitting rooms. The merchandise is then concealed in the fitting room and the clothing items are returned to their department. Your supervisor will discuss procedures regarding fitting room and restroom detentions. Shoplifters may also hide the wrappers and tags of concealed merchandise in the pockets of the items that he or she returns to the department. Providing customer service is the #1 deterrent to shoplifting. Remember, customer service is a good tool if you are unsure of the situation. In this case, a customer service contact was able to deter the shoplifter. In a technique often used for apparel, a customer will select several similar items, go to a secluded area of the store, and conceal one or more of them. The subject then leaves the area and places the remaining items on the sales floor. In another method, a customer will bring an empty bag into the store, select some merchandise, and when the opportunity presents itself, conceal the selected items in the empty bag. Should you see a customer in the store with a large purse or bag, it may be worth keeping an eye on him. Variations of this technique include the use of a duffel bag, a backpack, diaper bag, shopko bag, a plastic tote, or a bag from another retailer. Some bolder shoplifters will simply fill a shopping cart with merchandise and attempt to roll the cart out the exit door without making a purchase, hoping to go undetected. They are likely to have a car waiting outside for them. Always be alert to customers with large quantities of high-dollar items. If you observe this, remember that he or she may use an alternative exit to leave the store. Here, the subject selects high-dollar electronics items, conceals them in a tote, and exits through the emergency door in the back of the store. Another technique involves a customer selecting an item from the shelf, removing the contents from the package, concealing the item, and leaving the packaging behind. This technique involves filling a box or other large container with merchandise. After filling the box with selected merchandise, usually small, expensive items, the subject will reclose the box and go through the registers. If the cashier fails to check inside the box, the subject may be able to get away with several $100s worth of items for just the price of the container. A common technique used for the theft of shoes is to simply try on a new pair of shoes and then not take them off. The customer will try to conceal the old shoes under a rack or place them back in the box and return it to the shelf. When observing customers trying on shoes, always be sure to know what kind of shoes he or she had on to begin with. Shoplifters also use this technique with apparel, as well as watches, purses, and sunglasses. In this technique, two subjects work together to commit retail theft. One subject selects a duffel bag or other item for concealment, while the other subject acts as a shopper, scoping out what is to be stolen. Notice here that our male subject hides the duffel bag by draping shirts over the sides of the cart. The two subjects will meet up in the electronics department. As you can see here, the male subject conceals the video games in the duffel bag, while the female subject tries to distract the shopko teammate. The male subject then zips up the duffel bag and brings the cart with the bag of concealed video games to the front of the store and hides it between clothing racks. The female waits a couple of minutes and then heads up to the front of the store, grabs the duffel bag out of the cart, and immediately leaves the store. She then places the duffel bag in the car and both make a fast getaway. Refund fraud is another type of theft. The most common method involves selecting an item from the sales floor and taking it to the service desk to request a refund without a receipt. The customer will then receive a merchandise card for the value of the merchandise. This technique is most often used during periods when the service desk is busy, so the team member will not notice that the person brought the item from the sales floor and not from outside the store. For refund fraud cases where there is evidence that the merchandise was stolen from Shopko, for example, the person takes the merchandise from the sales floor to the service desk, the person may be detained after she receives the merchandise card, even if she does not immediately leave the store. For other types of refund fraud, such as refunding merchandise that may be stolen or purchased from another store, further investigation or consultation with your supervisor may be required. Another form of refund fraud occurs when a customer places a UPC sticker from a less expensive item over the UPC of a more expensive item. The subject pays the lesser price for the item. The person then removes the less expensive UPC sticker and returns the item without a receipt for a merchandise card worth the total value of the item. The following section will show two scenarios involving retail theft. Following each segment, you will be asked to complete a written statement of what you observed. Your written report should include the following information, and you will be scored based on the content you provide. Location the subject was first observed. Physical description of each person involved, including age, gender, and clothing worn. Actions of the subject which caused you to continue observation. Description of the merchandise and location it was selected from. Description of the items concealed and the location and method of concealment. Details of the subject not making payment for some or all of the items prior to exiting the store. Proper grammar and spelling. Avoid overuse of pronouns such as he, she, and they. Test number 1. Please pause the video and complete the Test 1 report now. Test number 2. Please complete the Test 2 report now.